Honorable Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, Shri N. Ora, respected Chief Minister of J&K, Begum Sahiba, gracious ladies and gentlemen. Today's topic, I think, is a very interesting topic because basically when you talk of terror, terrorism, terrorist, these are all interchangeable words. The only objective is to basically frighten, to cause panic, to cause physical destruction, and to cause destabilization of an established government. Whereas when you talk of governance, many times we mistake governance as being government. My humble view is that governance really is a composite of a whole lot of factors. The executive, the legislature, the judiciary, the media, the human rights organization, the civil society, etc., etc. अगर ये सातों अंग इकट्ठा चले, साथ चले, तो I think governance will be taken care of. The doings or undoings, the shortcomings of any one of this has an impact on governance. So governance is not something which is done by a government, which is basically the executive, but all these organizations put together. And that is where I think the problem comes. All these days, ladies and gentlemen, we have been looking at countering terrorism in a militaristic approach or a reactive approach. Of course, sometimes proactive approach using intelligence as a tool. But I think for once we have started looking at the causative factors. I think this is the key to the whole thing, where we do not know what are the causes which are causing a person to become a terrorist or turn to terror. I think that is more important. And that is where I think governance comes in. Why does a man turn to terror? Because he's frustrated, because he's disillusioned, because he's disappointed with an established order. And that's fair. The push factor comes from the system, and the pull factor comes from the terrorist forces. And between the push and pull factor, he gets jammed, and then he moves on, because always governance is associated with a sort of poverty, and terrorism is associated with giving you relief. And that is where this whole thing comes in. Well, of course, the militaristic approach is inevitable sometimes. It is one approach. But I think we really need to see how really we can use effective governance to fight terror. And that, I think, is the essence of the whole thing. Though we may keep on talking about minimum governance, minimum government, maximum governance, etc., I think governance has still taken a toll on us all. And that is where it is. I think whatever happens, let us now look at what are the challenges which we need to really face in terms of governance. These include, to my mind, demographic transitions, moral and physical corruption, crisis in national values, leadership crisis, poverty, poor education leading to unemployment, and other factors. One of the major problems is today, faith in institutions is being shaken up. Institutional integrity is today coming into question. Maybe wrong, maybe right. I would like to sort of put in a caveat before I really start talking about it. Any resemblance to any organization, system, or what it is purely coincidental. It is not intended. And these are based on perceptions of people. So perceptions of people do perceive that institutional integrity today has come under question. If institutional integrity comes under question, what do? There's a question whether the judicial process are as prompt as they should be or not as prompt as they be. There's a question whether media is doing its role as it should be or not doing its role, whether media is itself promoting a certain amount of disenchantment. I'm sorry for putting on this view very boldly. I think because what happened is there used to be probably one or two newspapers in the past. The print media was very restricted. And today we have a plethora of print media and electronic media, and everyone is 24/7, everybody wants to do breaking news. This whole theory of breaking news 24/7, I think first needs to be handled if you want to handle terror. I mean, the way the media sometimes looks at it's a 4-in-1. It is a prosecutor, it's a defender, it's a juror, it's a judge, everything all in one. Sometimes you find trial by media. The media trial is something which goes on all the time. And people are getting various views out of this media trial. And ultimately, when the views of the people who keep on listening to this media changes from what the ultimate justice is, then there is a disappointment. There's a question saying, is it being done? What is being done? Is it right or not right? Have we got justice or not got justice? Today, ladies and gentlemen, in fact, the executive has a very important role as a policy maker. Yes, in terms of policy, the executive delivers the policies. But then the implementation is where we suffer. And implementation is in the hands of the line institutions like the bureaucracy. How far has the bureaucracy really succeeded in implementing the policies and allowed it to reach the last mile? Policies might be excellent. It is all intended to welfare measures are intended, benefit is intended for a very vast segment. But how far are they reaching or not reaching? How sympathetic is bureaucratic? Is there a feeling of empathy? Or is there a feeling of sympathy? Seldom. The complaint about the bureaucracy is that it's an arrogant bureaucracy. I told you I'm filing a caveat. It's not intended to hurt anybody, but I'm just talking from perception that people come and tell us all the time. For example, when somebody comes to you with a problem, to a bureaucrat with a problem, 99% he does not believe that there's going to be a solution to the problem. But all that he wants is a shoulder to weep upon, and the bureaucrat does not have the time. He's busy. He has meetings to attend, he has papers to present, he has presentations to make, he has a whole lot of activities excepting meeting the person who is really hurt. And that is where the fellow starts going away from society. He said, I'm getting excluded. And that is how. How do we fight this? I mean, we need to sort of reaffirm the faith of the people in bureaucracy and the implementation of the policies of the government, which are all well-intentioned. Then you come to the legislature. There's often a feeling, a perception, whether debates have given way to more of noise. And I, for one, feel that probably televising legislature debates probably must be given up. I think it has become more, I think it is more the TV catching debates that are caught up, and therefore, and that is again acting as a sort of factor which is hurting the sentiments of people. That whether the legislators are debating, the people's representatives who are intended to debate upon the people's policies, are they doing it or not doing it? This is throwing up questions, this is throwing up doubts among the populace. Can we afford it? The judiciary. The judiciaries are the last hope of freedom. Is the judiciary today turning out its role as it should be? There is a perception that things are getting delayed in the judicial process, and as a result, justice delayed is justice denied. How true is it? And what happens is, when a person does not get justice to his cause, he feels frustrated, he feels angry. I may quote a very personal example, not that it means anything at all. I lost my brother, who was an IAS officer, who was a divisional commissioner in Jorhat in Assam. On a Monday morning, he went and sat in his chair, and there was a bomb planted in his chair, and off he went into pieces. They are accused. First of all, they're not arrested. Then they're arrested. Some of them become powerful ministers. Thereafter, the trial is taken over by the CBI. It is transferred, and every single accused gets acquitted. What justice is this? I keep saying it. If I was a courageous person, I would have probably taken to a gun. I was not. I was a coward. I became a governor. I'm sorry. This is the type of justice that we are looking for. Seldom the feeling is that justice is for the well-to-do people, and justice is not for the ordinary man. A well-to-do person, if he's arrested, goes into a hospital. He immediately has a heart problem, he has a neuro problem, he has a diabetic problem, he has all the problems in the world. And he's in hospital. Whereas an ordinary person goes to jail, and he's there languishing in jail for years together. Is this justice? Corruption. When you talk of corruption, it is a malice which has gone and seeped deep into society. How are we fighting it? Are we fighting it, or are we just making a show of fighting corruption? It is basically a show. How many people are getting convicted for corruption? The bigwigs. You may say a peon was caught taking a bribe of 25 paisa and allowing a person to go into the inpatient ward when the time was not there. And this will claim as trap laid and caught. And here are fellows who are probably smuggling out crores, millions of crores, and they're going scot-free. What is happening? People are asking this question. What happens? This is a question that you and I have to answer to the people, and this is where the frustration comes, and this is where people are getting moved away from society. And that's where the terrorist says, look, I am here for you to give you justice. The law of the jungle, I will give you the law of the jungle. Come to me. Are we allowing this to go on? How long are we going to allow this to go on? And if you go into the judicial process, it takes years and years and years and years, and nothing happens. Ultimately, it comes out scot-free. Why is his property not forfeited? The question that is being asked. The moment somebody is caught, why don't you forfeit his property? How is he allowed to enjoy the best facilities in jail? That is because he has the wherewithal. So he says, where is the faith in the institution? Where is the faith in the system? This is a question that people are asking today, and we need an answer. This is where governance comes in. How are we going to reform this process? Comes to elections. The electoral process itself has become one of slanging match. We are again sowing seeds of discontent in the people's mind by criticism, rather than going for positive propaganda, saying that this is what I will deliver if I come to government. Positivism has given way to negativism. Why don't you go in for positive propaganda and say, I will give you the following things if I come to power. This is how you will benefit if you elect me to power, rather than saying you were involved in this scam, that scam, that scam, that scam, that scam, endless number of scams. And ultimately what people think is, oh, is this a land of scams? You are trying to throw people into this sort of a doubtful state. I don't know whether the electoral process calls for a change. And every other day what happens? There are laws, etc. People move from one party to another party, then the government goes, then there's an election again held. How much of money is wasted in this? Can we afford it? People are asking this question. In fact, there's one idea which somebody was suggesting the other day. If a government falls due to movement of legislators from one side and the other side, we should just declare president's rule for the rest of the term and not have another government elected at all. And that is the only way to teach them. Because people think they're going to get benefit by changing sides. Let us just stop that process and just go for president's rule. That is, nobody benefits. And that is the only way we can stop this process. Otherwise, you have elections going on every 6 months, every year, 2 years, a government falls, and there's always, you're only trying to protect your turf. When are you going to govern? Your time of governance is stopped because you're all the time worried about protecting your turf. Is there a need change to electoral process so that people get the confidence that they're getting the government that they have selected, they have elected? After all, people have elected, they spend money to change and sort of elect you. What is happening? There comes the media, 24/7. Judicial, all trials are held by the media. Media decides who is an accused, who is guilty, who is not guilty, what happens, and the so-called leaks, which we call information from a top secret source. What top secret source are we talking about? Classified information, how does it come into the media? People are asking this question today. How do you say a top secret document comes into the media and you say from a top source? Should the media go into the RTI? If you and I can go into the RTI, why can't the media go into the RTI, at least in such cases? Is a question that is being raised. What sort of a media are we talking about? They go on saying whatever they want, and there's no regrets. You are sowing doubts in the minds of people today on institutions, on establishments, on government's capability to govern, of benefits reaching people, on the capability of the police forces, on the capability of the government to maintain, on the capability of government to govern. Is this the role of the media? You are looking only for TRPs. Everybody says, my TRP is 48, my TRP is this. It is noise. The media has a very important role to play, both the electronic and the print media. Are they performing their job? Today, ladies and gentlemen, I think the biggest casualty is truth. Satyameva Jayate has become a slogan. It is no longer put in practice anywhere at all. So is there a need for us to go back to Satyameva Jayate? Can we speak the truth at least somewhere? People are not able to find out, distinguish between truth and untruth, because it's so very confusing. One channel says this, one channel says this, one media says this, and people sometimes have become so pessimistic or so saying that they're negative-minded. They say, oh, this must be sponsored by so-and-so. Is this the role of media? Is this not pushing people away from the mainstream? And there are certain governmental responsibilities like education, health. Can we afford to barter away into the so-called public-private partnership? I think there are something called core responsibility of the government. Healthcare comes amongst one of them. Education. Today, we boast of opening IIMs, IITs all over the place. What is it for? Are we providing quality education or are we quantifying education? I think this whole jugglery of facts and graphs and charts must stop. All the presentations must stop. I think the whole presentation is based on charts, graphs, quantum jump, and decadal growth and quinticentennial growth and all this rubbish, I think should stop. It is time that we put an end to all this and look at quality education. And you are producing engineering graduates today who thereafter come to work as peons because there's no other job available because they don't have the skills suited to education. Why is this happening? You have education systems where you don't have faculty. We had to close down 75 engineering colleges last year in Telangana because there was no takers. It has become a business. I mean, in Plato's Republic, everything could be done except converting a man into a woman. And I think here in the field of education, we have converted Saraswati into Lakshmi. We have successfully done this. Today, education has become a commerce. Is it that we are unaware of it? Is the government not aware of this? Why is it that we are not acting? What is our constraint? What faith will people have if after engineering, then you say skill development has to start? What is the skill development? Another racket, it starts off. Then another fellow will start an institute saying skill development. And after 5 years of education, this fellow goes for skill development. If you have to become a doctor, you have to pay a few crores to get your admission. And if you get an admission after a few crores, you have to recover it. What sort of doctors are we producing? I'm not bringing a general sweep, but this is the broad perception among people. People are raising these questions. Why are we not addressing these cases of healthcare or education? If education is not addressed, if people are not going to get their jobs, here you are going to have a whole lot of youth who are going to turn the other way around, the unemployed youth. You are offering them a ready-made platform. Healthcare. What sort of a healthcare? Is it not the government's responsibility to provide affordable healthcare to the common man? There's one class of people who probably will go abroad for their health treatment. There's another class of people who probably the government will take care. But what about the large bulge of middle class? They probably will die out of the bills rather than out of the ailment. The number of tests that you have to go, the moment you go in, a lot of tests get. In fact, you go to a hospital and you go to the clinical test. He says, I know what test. He says, which doctor did you come from? And he knows what clinical tests are to be performed. Is this the confidence that I have in my healthcare industry? Can I afford it? Why can't the government sort of strengthen its healthcare this thing? And why can't we have some regulation of healthcare, of charges in also corporate hospitals and healthcare? These are some of the issues which are really driving people away from the mainstream and putting them into the fold of the terrorist. And these are issues that we need to attend. And many reforms that we look at, we are looking at relief and rehabilitation. And when you take a land of somebody, how transparent is it? Is there a transparency in our system? Is there an accountability in our system? Is there an auditability in our system? I think unless we are able to have accountability, auditability, and transparency in the system. Transparency, again, yes, you will say we have the RTI, a wonderful act which is brought upon. Certainly the legislation is brought about the RTI when it was thought about by Aruna Jairam at that time, I don't know what she's Aruna Roy at the moment, was really to benefit the people, raise questions as to why there is a seepage of funds. Today, ladies and gentlemen, RTI is used as a blackmail tool sometimes. Not always, but sometimes it is used as a blackmail tool. Why are we allowing this to happen? I think the RTI, any man who raises a question on RTI should also be answerable if it's an attempt to blackmail. And questions are being raised. Once I went into Bastar, unfortunately the Chief Minister is not here. When I'd gone to Bastar, I'd gone to a place called Jagdalpur, where you have to do a hop, and from there you took a heli hop into the Bastar region. So I'd gone to Jagdalpur, I'd gone to the temple there, then went off to Bastar. The RTI query was the visit to the temple part of the governor's itinerary? 2, whom did he meet there and what did he discuss? This is an RTI query which comes. I gave a reply. The temple was part of my itinerary. I met Lord Balaji there. I told him, please give good sense to people like the applicant. This is the answer that I have to give him. I mean, is this the type of RTI that we are raising? Or how many people came to eat the dinner and what is the menu served? What RTI is this for? What is the RTI intended for? You look at PIL. PIL again has become the biggest tool of blocking development today. Anybody who's hurt goes to the court, gets a stay order. Why do you give a stay order? Why don't we hear it on a day-to-day basis and clear it off and be done with it this way or that way? Why should there be a stay order on anything at all? I think unless we are able to remedy some of this process, I can go on endlessly, but in view of time constraints, I think the governor of J&K will get very angry, so I think I'll stop. And of course, madam is there an expert on the ground. We are all theoreticians who talk from the table, from the chair. I think so. The time has come when we need to address governance. And the first thing is corruption. We must address corruption in a big way. We must make all these organs, the human rights organization, yes, civil society, yes, social media, yes, they have a role. But do they have a responsibility? You can put anything on the social media and run it around. Is it verifiable? Have you verified it? I mean, all of us use a WhatsApp today. You see the number of messages keeps coming on the WhatsApp or what the social media is. Unverified information which can sort of, today you can say there's a leak in Kudankulam power project, atomic power plant in Tamil Nadu, and you can see the scare that can go on in this country. I mean, there must be a sense of responsibility. There must be a sense of accountability. There's a sense of audibility. Unfortunately, all that is missing. I mean, you have the human rights organization. I remember once in Chhattisgarh when the same thing happened, when we had picked up one person for his links with Maoist, who was subsequently convicted also. There was human rights organizations came, Nobel laureates came from all over the world and said, oh, we have picked up. The only question I had was, when 38 of my policemen who were sleeping in their barracks were slaughtered by the Maoists, where were you all hiding? Did you not have any sympathy for them? Are they not human beings? Is human rights only the right of the terrorist? And many times when we are asked, when the police force are asked saying that terrorism is our biggest problem, Maoism is our biggest problem, Naxalism is our biggest problem, this thing, that thing, etc., and you must handle it. And we go put our best foot forward, the police force put their best foot forward, and there is a sort of encounter or whatever, neutralization. Everybody gives you awards saying, oh, what a wonderful done. Then the civil society goes to the court, petitions it, and then we say law will take its own course. What do you mean by saying law will take its own course? What protection are you giving to the officers who are fighting terrorism, who are fighting anti-national elements? And thereafter, they have to go and stand there before the judiciary for days together to get justice and spending all the well-earned money. Is this law will take its own course slogan acceptable to us? I think this is where people are getting moved away from society, and it's time that we address these evils if we have to bring everybody onto the mainstream and stop the recruitment catchment area for the terrorists. If we're able to sort of take care of the catchment area, I think we would have done much more. And for that, I think every one of us will have to be responsible in our own ways. Society has a responsibility. Everyone has a responsibility. And there is no use of just shifting the blame on a government, all the time saying, Chief Minister Sahiba kuch nahi kar rahe, Prime Minister kuch nahi kar rahe, so and so. There are a lot of people, everybody's doing it. And as I told you, all these systems have to work together. We all have to work together. And I think it is time that we move from a negative attitude to a positive attitude. Everything for us is bad. Whatever the government does is bad. Is opposition only for the sake of opposition? When are we going to get out of it? The people are asking this question. There are questions being raised when you claim something else and the opposition says it's all nonsense. What's the why? Whom do I believe? Whom do you believe? Every time a government makes a claim, immediately the opposition says it's all rubbish. It's all nonsense. Why don't we sit down and debate honestly? Because I think it is time that we start thinking that we belong to India. India is our nation. I think it is time that we go back to our old values, our ethics, our morality, our customs, and think of India as a nation. And only then I think we'll be able to fight the terrorist element. If you think that India is not yours, and India is up for sale, up for grabs, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, it is not going to work for us. I think I'll stop here because the other speakers will take in. But I strongly feel that governance is the best tool to fight terror. Militaristic approach, yes, to a great extent. It is necessary. But first of all, that comes in only if I have delivered what I should deliver. If I have not given you your due, I have no right to expect you to be with me. So I think governance as a means of fighting terrorism or terror today, I think is an extremely, extremely useful concept. And I think we should try and promote this concept by looking into these various organs which form the government. Thank you very much.